It's loading. Here we go. And guys, we are live. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Epic Creative Podcast. I'm Forrest Proctor. This is my friend Troy Widger, my co-host.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And yeah. So we're really excited. This is actually the first time we've ever gone live. So if we have a little technical hiccup, just forgive us and we're gonna work it out. But that being said, please do like and subscribe because on this podcast, we're going to talk about everything creative, especially if you're using creativity to fuel your income. If you're a videographer, photographer, graphic designer, web developer, musician, even producer, audio engineer, what have you, muralist, we don't care. If you're using creativity to make money or to fuel your life, that's what this podcast is all about. And that's what we're going to talk about. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about something that me and Troy were just talking off air about, and we had to shut up because we were like using all of our points. And that would be the use of AI for filmmaking. Now, before I pass it to Troy and we get into this, I want to define filmmaking real quick, because if you just clicked on this or you're watching this and you're thinking we're talking about making feature films, we will dabble in that and documentaries and stuff. But when I say filmmaking, I'm using like the 2024 definition of the word. You know, people on YouTube call themselves filmmakers. Basically, if you're using images, to make money, I guess. And I know that's going to upset the real filmmakers out there. And I apologize because I'm not trying to like make it out like, we're making feature films here, and we might, and we'll have some people on that have made feature films, but I just don't want the title to be too misleading and you think it was like clickbaity. We're talking about filmmaking in the broadest sense. So if you're making videos, if you're making documentaries, if you're making wedding films, we would include that too. So that's pretty much what this episode is going to be about. We're super excited. The live stream seems to be working great. If you guys want to comment, that would be awesome. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how you're using AI to, be creative, basically. But Troy, what is our first topic, sir? And I'll kind of let you start it off.
Sure. So, Forrest kind of already described it. We're going to go into using AI in filmmaking, also the business side of it, and we're going to talk about using AI in photography and a little bit of audio as well, because we're dealing with all these things every day between the two of us. So, get right into it. Topic number 1. AI, is it a blessing or a curse? A little bit of both. And why do you feel that way? How do you feel about it?
Well, me personally, I think there's two sides of it, right? There is the argument that it's going to take away our ability, or not even just our ability, but our drive to be creative. And I definitely had that thought when AI was first kind of coming into the mainstream and we got like ChatGPT and Midjourney and sort of the early softwares that we were, seeing come out. But the more I used them, the more I saw them as a tool rather than a crutch. And funny enough, I'm more creative with AI because I can sort of, on a lot of things, I can turn off the logistics side of things that would take me hours and hours to like do this little thing that I'm not really into. But now I can shift all my focus to the stuff I am into. And I basically, and we talked about this, Troy, I'm basically a company of 10 people now, and I'm just one guy. But what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I feel the same way. I feel since I've implemented into my strategies as far as the business side of it, since I'm just going to piggyback off right where you left off. Yeah, I feel like I have an assistant. I feel like I have somebody kind of doing all the monotonous things that I don't want to do, as far as shot lists, maybe some storyboarding, maybe some song lyrics. We'll get into that later with the audio.
And
But
maybe
when it comes to the editing side of it, and like whether it is audio or video, kind of what we were talking about with Opus earlier, I just still feel like stupid AI. You know what I mean? When it
yeah,
comes to being creative, I'm just like stupid AI. You know, it's a tool, like you said, and it's more for the administrative side, right? And a little bit of the editing side and a little bit of the creative side. More of
for
a
sure.
tool on the creative side, but kind of like having an assistant on the business side of things. So I
Yeah,
think
and
anybody who, sorry, okay,
no,
I think
go ahead, go ahead.
I'll end it right here. I think anybody who owns a business can be implementing AI to just, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it, but get rid of an employee, maybe.
Yeah, that's the sad truth of it, right? And there's like
Yeah.
there's this idea in the space of creative AI, I guess, that
Hmm.
um, it's gonna bring a flood. It's gonna saturate the market with like videographers, podcasters. It's just gonna like bring so many people. But what I personally think is it's gonna weed out certain people because you're gonna be able to see the people who are using AI as a crutch and the people who are just. I like to think of it like a 90 to 10%. Like I'm using AI for 10% of my creativity. Now I'm
Hmm.
packing in that administrative stuff you said into that 10%. And like we can go into the editing a little bit, I think. In terms
Hmm.
of like let's just jump into like Premiere, right? Uh
Hmm.
the way that you can extend music clips. I mean,
Hmm.
and it's not even stuff I don't want to do. It's stuff that um it just took so long to do before. Where I would
Oh,
have to
bro.
copy and paste the song, and I would have to find where the break is, and I would blend them, and I would nest that clip. And I'm actually really good at that because for years and years in wedding films and in different things, I'd have to shorten and lengthen clips. But now that is something that I don't like. I don't hold some trophy that's like I'm the best, clip extender. So if AI can do that part of it, I'm totally cool with that. And it's not like I'm just going to blindly accept it. I'm going to listen to it and make sure. And sometimes it doesn't break right. And I do have to do it manually. But
Hmm.
does that make me less of a creator? I don't think so. Cause I'm sort of,
Yeah.
it's almost like using it's like using a plug-in to make your audio better. Right.
Yeah, absolutely,
Which is what we've
absolutely.
been
Like a
doing
stem
for years.
separator, like something to isolate like the drums out of a sample. It's equivalent to that,
Exactly.
where
And
you
then
can take
like
like just the vocals out of
on
something.
the photography side, I do this with our thumbnails for the channel a lot.
Hmm.
The expand tool. If I took a picture of something, but I wanted more of a wide shot, and this works really good because I just use it for a company's content I was doing. The owner was like, "I like that shot of that animal we were shooting." But he's like, "I wish it
Hmm.
was like a wide shot, like on a on a wider lens, basically, or further back."
Right,
All I did
right.
was go into Photoshop and use the extender tool or the expand tool. And, I ended up getting a super wide and it fills in all of the trees and all the stuff that was there already. So
Mm.
yeah, I think using it like 90, 10,
Wild,
10%,
wild, wild.
10% rule.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go off what you were saying about that audio extender. How I got into photography and videography kind of professionally was through audio because people were needing me for that. Hey, a lot of people, they were doing like pitches for fashion. Hey, can you cut this song up in a little 20 seconds? Use this part. You know what I mean? Things like that. Where nowadays, um, it's funny that you mentioned that because it didn't even dawn on me. Nowadays, people don't hit me up for that anymore. Ever because Premiere's had that for how many years now? A while now, right? Like
Yeah, that's a good
3 years,
question.
at least
Yeah, at
3 years.
least two, at least two.
Hmm. Hmm.
I actually
I used
got a
this
new
years back.
computer, so I didn't have access to all that with my 2017 iMac.
Okay,
When I got a new MacBook, it kind of changed everything because it was like, oh,
the
the new
M1
version of
shit,
Premiere.
bro.
Yeah, the new version of Premiere has all these AI features. So I had to kind of like go back and learn all of that. But man, once I did, and another cool thing if you're not doing this, guys, if you're using Premiere and if you're using DaVinci, because I just got back from NAB and they announced all kind of AI stuff in Premiere and DaVinci, and they basically match like anything you can do in Premiere, you can do in DaVinci. But I love the
Hmm. Right.
transcript. I love the transcript option because it can look at your entire, say, podcast and it can download the transcript. And then you can take that transcript and do anything with it. Like even for our show notes where you have the timestamps in the description,
Hmm.
I'll
Hmm.
give the transcript to ChatGPT and I'll say make YouTube timestamps. Used to you had to do that by hand. Um, or
Hmm.
you can even take the transcript from a video and say make a blog post out of this. And I just love the way that you can be creative on the front end, like make a podcast, and then you can use AI to make dozens of pieces of content after. Now it's feeding off of the content you originally did. So, and I get the argument if people are, that's not truly creative. That's not truly creative. Like, it's just not. Okay, cool. It's not. But you stay back there and bitch about it not being creative, and I'll just
Exactly.
keep going. That's just how I
So,
feel about it.
well, on the other hand of that, so is hiring an editor, is that not being creative? Because it's kind of the same thing, right? You having something to edit your video for you. It's like hiring out an editor,
Bro,
except you're not paying for an editor.
you make an incredibly good point. And I still think there's value in people, right? Like, if I had the money, and maybe one day we will, be in a
Right.
position where we have an editor. I would love that,
Absolutely.
because I do think a
Mhm.
human could do better at 90% of things.
Always.
I mean, I'm gonna die on that 90-10 rule, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
for everything. I think a human's gonna be better at 90% of things. But even that human, I would encourage to use AI. If I hired somebody, I would say, hey, make sure you're using AI for
Yes.
like your little
Yep.
monotonous things, because you can be more
Mhm.
productive. We can get things out faster. We can
Yep.
make more money. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a benefit. There's dangers to it, but talking about it in this creative space, I don't think the dangers
Everybody's
lie in our
using it.
space.
Everybody on YouTube's using it to some extent.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
notice it more and more the more you use it yourself. You're like, oh yeah, that's so and so podcast, they're using this. Okay. That's how
And
they're getting the text so quick, and things like
And
that.
talking about YouTube,
Mhm.
I gotta say, thank you, YouTube, for this. They just implemented or put out a policy about fully AI videos, because you can make fully AI videos with AI voice.
Sora.
Yeah, Sora. Well, not so much Sora yet, but yeah,
Mhm,
like Mid Journey, and then morphing the video or whatever. They're not
mhm,
letting that fly on the platform. They just announced.
mhm,
So your
mhm.
video cannot be fully AI. Like, what we're doing right now, we used AI to make the thumbnail. We'll
Right.
use AI to do some descriptions. And so
Right.
YouTube is going to look at that and say, oh, they used AI as a tool. If you're using AI to carry your entire channel, you're not going to get monetized. At least that's what they're saying. And I appreciate
Gotcha.
that, because that's going to help
Right.
us out. Like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
competing with a robot.
Right.
We're actually
Right.
putting in work.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like I saw this morning. Sora Tribeca Film Festival is having a specific shorts section for Sora made AI generated stuff, which is
Yeah,
interesting. But
that
at
is going to
least
be
they're
very
put it in
cool.
its own category, which is, I mean, if it's in its own category, that's fine, right? I mean, it's like it's another niche, that somebody will be into. I'm sure there's people out there that enjoy watching that stuff. I look at it more like Sora would be cool for maybe like some special effects, or some scenes like that where you're trying to put together a documentary or a short film or something like that. That's kind of what I was thinking today as I was looking at it this morning.
Yeah, I'm wondering how like animation studios will be able to use it in the future, because if they build their entire infrastructure on the animation side, like the scenes and the characters and the puppets and all that.
Hmm.
And when I say
Hmm.
puppets, I mean like 3D puppets,
Right.
like think
Hmm.
a Pixar
Hmm.
film, right? But then they
Exactly.
use AI to do the animating. Like, they did all the creative work in terms of making everything, and then they can say,
Hmm.
okay, make this guy jump over this fence and then run to this pool.
Yeah.
Just just
Yeah. It's
just
text
just to
based,
get it,
right?
well, yeah, and just to get it roughed out. Like, once they get that roughed out, then they can go in and add the minor facial
Hmm.
expressions, and maybe the jump's not quite right, and
The
I think
human
that's just gonna
element,
speed it up.
the human creative element, right? That it's missing.
Yep. As long as you're sprinkling that in, I don't know. I'm for it. But
Yep.
we can,
It's a tool. It's a tool.
we can move on to this next topic. I'm just kind of
Yeah,
looking
let's do
ahead.
that.
Okay, this is a pretty good one. So I'll read it off here. So, the
Okay.
future of filmmaking, will AI replace cameras? And this is going to go back to Sora that we just talked about, I guess. Um,
Okay.
what are your thoughts on this?
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, we already have robotic cameras, right? That are being used to an extent. But I mean, it's going to be, well, I don't know, maybe not. It's going to be a while before you have a robot running around with a Ronin getting those action shots or something. You know what I mean? I mean, I know there's
Mhm.
car rigs and things like that, but I mean, to what extent is all that AI already, right?
Yeah, my thought on it is think about like 2024 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even
Mm-hmm.
2013 is when the big vinyl push started, like the resurgence of,
Sure.
vinyl
Mm-hmm.
records, right?
Yeah,
I
record
think,
store day and all that started.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was 2013. I think that
Mm-hmm.
will happen with filmmaking because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get this influx of AI,
People are gonna
content.
be sick of it,
Well, you're
kind
gonna
of
be
like
sick
these
of
right
it, but
now, bro.
exactly, CDs are spiking right now. Oh, got some Al
Yep.
Green, dude. I saw him live. That was awesome.
Dude,
Um,
I'm swimming in CDs right now, bro. We can get
I love it,
that's a
dude.
whole nother topic. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic. But
Hey,
yeah.
maybe one day we'll do like a music one where we like pull out our top 20 CDs and vinyl. That would be cool.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be real
Um,
fun.
but
Okay.
no, like the wedding films, I think is one for me that there's even more security now because there's so much AI generated content. People are thirsty for
Real
just
shit.
real shit. And that's, COVID helped with that.
Sorry to curse, but
No, you're good, man. COVID helped with that with like, say a farmer's market, right? Like people were so
mhm,
sick of being inside. And,
yes.
I think the internet in a way is helping us get back to community because, we're kind of sick of doing this. If I could have it my way, you would be here in
We
Mississippi and we'd be doing this in person. So,
for sure. For sure.
but going back to the topic, I don't think it's going to replace cameras anytime soon. And when it does, I think there will still be a need because people are going to want that organic look.
Yep. It's where I'm at nowadays, with the music, going back to the CDs. It's like the festival that I just shot, the Strawberry Festival of the weekend. I completely generated a whole song with lyrics about the town of Elmwood, the Strawberry Festival, everything that was happening in my video. I made a song about it with AI, and I can tell it gets wonky at places, but I've had comments. People are like, "That's a great song. Good job on the. I really like the music." Um,
That's awesome. That's wild.
so
That's
I
wild.
mean, it's wild and it's cool, but at the same time, it's forcing me because I'm like, all right. So the average person doesn't know if a song's AI right now, which is forcing me, right, to go back to see back even before auto tune. Al Green, there was no auto tune in the day of Al Green. This dude really sang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're seeing kind of like people are sick of auto tune. People are sick of 808s in the music. Now people are getting sick of AI already. So I feel like it's going to drive people back to the natural forms of music. I mean, Spotify's failing. They're not paying an artist. They're getting sued left and right. It's a mess. Um, so yeah, as things go forward, it's a gift and a curse. But I think it's going to force people back into kind of the old school formats of consuming media, which is a
Yeah, and
good
if
thing.
you're watching this, guys, and you clicked it because you were thinking, because I kind of thought this, like somebody might click this and go, "Oh, I can make a film with AI. Let me click this."
Mm-hmm.
That's probably something you don't want to do. Use it as a tool. Yeah, and it's just I'm just trying to pre-warn some young people that, and don't get me wrong, that sounds kind of fun because I've already like done whole books with AI
Right.
that I'm working
Right.
on.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, I do most of the writing up front, and then I just kind of polish it using AI. But
Mm-hmm.
don't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to do all my creative work with AI because number one, that's not creative, right? I don't think so. But number two,
Mm-hmm.
platforms like YouTube and the world are not gonna. That's not gonna age well, right? I think this podcast will age well because yes, we used AI for one or two things, but this is me and you having a real conversation. But I
Right.
just wanted to like kind of put that precursor out for anybody wanting to get into filmmaking. I think you should get a camera. Don't rely on AI to do
No.
your creative stuff. So, but cool. What about you? Want to introduce the next
Yeah,
topic?
let's move on. We got about 40 minutes. So I got to pick up my daughter.
Yeah, 10-4.
So
Awesome.
okay. Okay, so I think you're going to ask me about the next topic, number 3.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. AI in business relaunch. So I want to ask about your experience. You moved from Joshua Tree, California, to Elmwood, Illinois, which is I think your hometown, right? If I'm not
No, close
mistaken,
to
or
my
close.
hometown, about a
Home
half an hour
state.
away. Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of relaunching your business there, you already spoke about, an event you just shot. How, and you've touched on this, but I'm just going to let you expand on it. How has AI helped you relaunch And yeah, just tell us about all that.
Well,
And maybe start with
AI for
Copilot,
me.
because I remember Copilot was like the launch pad for you.
Yeah, Copilot's kind of blowing my mind. Well, I've been using AI now for about at least a year. So I started using AI with Dolly 2 for my music. I was using it to make thumbnails and videos and shorts for my music. I would just text prompt uh, visuals, and then I would put them in Photoshop and kind of mess with them, flip them, double them, do different things like that. So I was using it there, and I kind of wanted to stay away from it at first. I was apprehensive, as I am about all new tech. I still can't stand VR or anything like that. I don't want to mess with that, but we'll get into that in another. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But I was using it there, and then I started using Copilot here recently. Well, no, I started using Udio. I started messing around with the audio generative AI because of the upcoming documentary that we were working on. You gave me that Fleet Foxes reference, so I made a couple tracks in my own style. And then I was like, you know what? I just got curious. I'm like, let me try this Udio. It was right around the time it came out. Udio. And so I made a couple tracks in there, and I was like, interesting, And I kind of realized that, especially with the audio side of things, especially when you're linking it to film, there's something very magical, right? When audio and film come together, you can just put some moving shots on the screen. It's cool, but then once that audio is linked up to it, it really evokes emotion. At least to me, it does. So I realized that a generated AI song can still evoke emotion. Let's use Star Wars for example. Everybody knows that theme, right? But how many people know the name of the composer of that theme? Not many. So at the end of the day, I don't think the audience really cares about the audio composer as much, unfortunately. So I think going forward in film, we're going to see AI on the audio side more than anything. I feel that AI is really going to disrupt the audio industry more so than any industry, and computer coding right behind that. Because I could go to Copilot right now and have it write me a whole C++ program, generated video games or little app games, Candy Crush like games or whatnot if I wanted to,
Or websites, right? I think you can make
for
websites.
video game. I'm talking about video games, websites. Yeah, you can just have it code pretty much whatever you want for you.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that. It's nice because it's almost like it can fill in the gaps where you fall short. Like for me, I've never done like a coding class. I've always like made my websites in Wix or in Squarespace. I would love to learn coding or to be able to do coding, but it's just I've already got too many crafts that I'm trying to master. And so like this just not in the it's just not in the cards to learn from scratch. But if I could prompt a website that I have in my head, it can kind of fill in the gaps of stuff you're not good at or just don't have time to do.
Well, programming, I went to school for programming before I switched over to business administration. It is just tedious, and one little error and everything goes wrong. And that's the thing with things like that, where there's a high probability that a human could get one number wrong, right? In a whole page of code list, and it comes out wrong, where with AI, you don't have to worry about that error. At least right now, you don't.
Well, imagine if all you had to worry about was going back and fixing one letter. If AI could write the whole thing,
true,
you could go back.
Instead of writing the whole code, now you're just spending your time fixing that one little error. It's just it's a time saver. It's just a huge time saver for everybody. And I think it's kind of like what you said when excuse me, when we first started talking about it. We're all going to end up being AI operators to some extent. And you can even kind of talk about your father's experience at his job a little bit and what you told him and how that came to fruition pretty
Oh
quickly.
yeah. Yeah. So my dad is a engineer and surveyor, and he's been doing that for my entire life. So he's probably been in that field for 30 years, and he works up in
Mhm.
Huntsville. And funny enough, he he lays out and builds all the Dollar Generals in America.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, but about a year, maybe let's say 2 years ago now, I had a conversation with my dad at Christmas when we were all getting together, and I
Mhm.
was showing him ChatGPT, and he was just kind of like, I don't really know what that is. I'm not too interested. And I said, no, Dad, you need to get this. It's 20 a month, but you need to get this because, mark my words, you're going to have a training at your job on how to use it. And so he got it, and he played with it, and he absolutely loved it. He ended up writing a book with it, and you can get on Amazon, KDP.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
he's a devout Christian, so it's a Christian, basically like a layout of the Bible in like 10 pages or something. Just like a fun
Cool.
little book that he wanted to create. But that
Awesome.
being said, he called me probably a year after that conversation and said, we're using ChatGPT for a ton of our processes. We've got training in place. We have a company coming in to train some of our newer guys on, ways they can use AI. And I've actually thought about that for like companies local to here, because a lot of my clients, they're doing all these monotonous tasks,
Mhm.
and for no charge, I just say, hey, I can show you how to do that in like 2 minutes, and you can just
Mhm.
do it over and over and over. And
I
once I show them, dude, it's like their world is rocked. It's kind of like the day I was like, hey, get Copilot. I remember you called me the next day and we're like, dude,
Yeah,
this
I
is
forget
crazy.
what was I first using that for? I'm trying to
I think
remember. Yeah,
script
it blew my
writing.
mind.
I think you
Yeah,
called me late.
shot list. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
wild.
was
And
like
it's
that.
no,
That
go
saved
ahead.
me at least an hour. That saved me at least an hour. It would take me at least an hour to come up with a shot list. And there was
What
some shots in there that I wouldn't have thought of necessarily
Well, dude, look, that
myself.
leads us perfectly into our next topic, which is AI for
Mhm.
copywriting,
Yep.
enhancing, the productivity of filmmaking. Copywriting is something that I'm actually good at, but man, is it time consuming. And
Mhm.
something with like what's cool about something like ChatGPT, especially the pro version, is it learns how you talk. So a lot of
Mhm.
times what I'll do is I'll do my copywriting in Millinote on a document, and then
Mhm.
I'll put it in ChatGPT and say, hey, can you tidy this up? I'm terrible at spelling. I'm terrible at grammar. So I kind of like let it focus on that. And over
Mhm.
the months and years of using it, now I can just give it kind of like my bullet points, my topics, and get it to write it in my voice. And there's there's some arguments to be made about, how creative that is, but at the same time, when you look
What
at
do you
the
mean exactly? Explain that. Can you explain that a little bit more by using your voice? What do you mean by
Well,
using your voice?
okay. So if you use ChatGPT, the pro version, and I think we're on
Mhm.
4.0 now, not
Yeah. Yeah.
4.0, 4.0, like the letter. And we're about to
Right.
get 5. It has a memory feature. So a good example is, I use ChatGPT to do most of the titles and descriptions of our videos using a transcript.
Mhm.
When I put the
Mhm.
transcript in there and I say, hey, I need a title, video, and hashtags for this video, a little icon pops up and says accessing memory. So it goes back
Mhm.
and looks at all the other times that I've done this, including the times where I wrote the stuff personally, the first 10 times. And it uses all that information for this post. That way, in one, you don't sound like, yourself. And then the
A
next one you
robot.
sound, well, the next one you sound like a robot. Then the next one you sound like Jordan Peterson. The next one you sound like Joe Rogan. And you can actually prompt it to do it in the voice, write this in the voice of Jordan Peterson. If you want like a highly intellectual, confusing, nonsensical sounding
I'm gonna
description.
have to do that. I'm gonna have to come on here as like Mike Tyson on our next one or something. Man, that'd be hilarious.
Dude, I'm telling you, you can write these things like that. But what I
That's
like about it
funny.
is over time, it learns how you talk. It learns your
Right.
values. It learns like
Mhm.
your audience in a way with the YouTube stuff. Like it knows my target audience. And something else that's really cool in ChatGPT is custom GPTs. So instead of just going to the regular chat, you can make a custom GPT and you can get really, really detailed with it. And you can actually do some coding in it. But I just use the regular builder for it. But like I did one for writing my YouTube scripts. Okay. So now instead of just going to the regular chat, I go to my custom GPT, which is a YouTube script wizard or something. And I tell it, this is my topic. These are like roughly the points I want to cover. Generate a YouTube script that expands on this. And
Gotcha.
pretty much spits out what I put in, but just a little bit expanded. And then I'll go through it, take away, or you can modify it. You can say, that's great, but I don't really like that you're including all the specs of the camera. I more want to focus on the usability. Like, it's not a spec video, it's more of a usability, practical video. And it'll rewrite it. But it's just one of those things, you got to play with it and use it basically daily to get it to work right. And I use it for
that's
all my
how all
emails.
AI is.
I use
You
it to
gotta
write all my
finesse it.
emails. You know, if I'm emailing a client or if I'm writing copy for a campaign, and I want to do a separate podcast on this campaign that I showed you the other day for the sororities, because it's working really well. So I think our audience could take that same model and basically apply it to anything. But that's how I wrote all the copy. That's how I did all the ads. And like I said, it's working. So as long as it's working, it's bringing in jobs, it's bringing in money. For that kind of stuff, I'm all about it. So yeah, writing copy is probably the number one thing, right?
That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't think to use it that way. Kind of where you're feeding it your information.
Well, if you're using something like Copilot or the free version of ChatGPT, that's just something that they put behind the paywall, right? And it makes sense. If it was your company, you'd put specific features like memory. I'd put that behind the paywall. But for $20 a month, man, most people are spending that a week on something like that.
Right.
Or one meal nowadays for one person is $15 to $20.
That's what I'm saying. How much is monthly salary? How much would it cost to hire somebody to do these things for you? You know what I mean?
A copywriter.
That's kind of where I'm thinking of it.
You know, it's funny too. We talked about we have a guest that's going to come on in a few weeks, probably. Who? It's funny. No way, he's calling me, dude. That's weird.
Who is
That's weird. I'm gonna Scott Gardner. He is a double Emmy nominated scriptwriter and art director, and he lives in Mobile. I used to work with him. But
and he's calling me right now.
He's calling me. That is so weird. He's gonna have to wait. But he might be asking like, "Hey, when do you want me to do this podcast?" But anyways, he used to write for me when we separated. Like, I left the job I was at where he was the director and the writer, and I would pay him. I would send him, projects and be like, "Hey, I need a script for this," and I would pay him like $100 a script. Well, at some point, I stopped sending scripts or sending work. And he hit me up one day and he was just like, "Hey man, what happened? I thought, is everything okay? Like, I hadn't seen any scripts coming in." And I was like, "Yeah, I need to talk to you because I'm using ChatGPT basically to do what you were doing." And then I encouraged him to look into it because there's probably a way that he can use it. And, he can be I don't know, like to save not his job, because he's very good at a lot of things. He's not just a writer, but to save that part of his job, he probably wants to implement it. And him and another guy that we're going to have on, Brad Rogers, hopefully, who's another double Emmy nominated guy, director of photography. They started their own company in Mobile. They're doing very well. And I was actually at a wedding with them the other night, and they said that they are using ChatGPT. And these guys are a little older than us, like 42 and 50. Still like probably the most in shape guys you've ever seen. But they were really against it at first because I was bringing it to them when we worked together. I was like, "Hey, look at all this stuff I'm doing with AI," and they're very traditional TV guys, but they're now using it all the time. But just to go back, like, I basically ended up not firing a writer because he didn't work for me, but I ended up using his services because ChatGPT is doing it, and I'm paying, what I was paying Scott per script, that's what I'm paying per year with ChatGPT. So I'm saving a lot of money on that. And, we hadn't touched a lot on business, but that's a good business practice to cut your expenses.
That and the time, time that I saved coming up with a shot list, that's time I spent with my family, or I could put towards music or something else,
Dude,
So
100%. That's like the marketing stuff for me. Like normally the thing I did for the sorority, which we'll talk about later, basically building a
mm,
marketing campaign would take 4 to 5 hours, and that's not even pushing it out. That's just getting it
mhm.
all set up.
Yep,
But I got
yep.
it all set
The
up in
prep,
less
the
than an
prep.
hour, and now I'm just periodically doing the emails, periodically doing the lead generation and stuff like that. So, and like you
I
said,
think.
we were both in Florida last week or the last 2 weeks for vacation,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I didn't feel stressed. And not that AI took away the stress, but I got a lot done while I was there and before and now after that.
Hmm.
Maybe I would be stressed about because it's like I got so much to do.
You would have been a little more stressed. Not that you would be, stressed, but you would have felt a little bit more pressure for sure without the use of AI. I feel kind of like it's like that 80-20 rule, in most things in life, um, where 80% of it's in the prep work, most jobs you do, you're setting up and prepping, you're storyboarding, you're shot listing, you're thinking about music, where all those things that would have taken 3 hours before are now taking an hour. I mean, who wouldn't want to free up time in their life?
Yeah, and I think we need to do a whole podcast on like our company of one philosophy
Hmm.
that we've sort of
Hmm.
coined. That's actually a book. You can look it up, but I read the
Okay.
book. It's not great. I think we could write a
Okay.
better one. I wasn't a
With
fan of
Chat
the
GPT, right?
yeah.
Better one with
I
Chat
wasn't a
GPT.
fan of this guy's book. Maybe it was just the tone and the pacing, but anyway, we can move on to
Uh,
the next topic. Let's see what we got here.
yeah.
So, color
Let's cool.
grading
Let
with
me
AI. You
Yeah.
good?
So let me kind of ask you about that
Okay, go for it.
because you just came out with some banger photos of that football player. Um high school photos, I believe. Senior photos. Is that what those were?
Yeah, they were like senior portraits. They were actually from a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm just repurposing some of my like Facebook
Okay.
content.
Did you use any AI with your color grading when you were touching those photos?
So I'm not doing that yet with photos. But
Okay.
funny enough, it's
Great work then, man. Those are
I sh-
amazing. Great
I
work.
should
I love
I
them.
should be I should be doing that, but I'm doing this same thing though with video. Mainly
Right.
because I'm so comfortable in Premiere with color match, and DaVinci has color
Hmm.
match as well. It's called something else, but
Hmm.
basically what you can do is like, and a lot of people have been doing this for a long time. They'll take a frame of Pulp Fiction,
Yeah.
and as long as the lighting is similar for their shot, the softwares will do a pretty bang up job at matching
Hmm.
it with one click.
Hmm.
And so I
Hmm.
basically saw that and I said, huh, if I can do that, why couldn't I generate screenshots or generate images through ChatGPT and then use color match to do that? And then you can go a little further. Once you get it to where you want it, you can actually save that as a LUT. And I mean, you
That's
know,
fire.
the
Yeah, that's
possibilities are
you.
pretty wild.
You have an amazing YouTube video on that. You should link it. Maybe
Yeah,
in
I'll
the
throw it.
YouTube
I'll
video.
throw it in the description when we get done here. But that video is
That's a
actually
good video.
it's done a lot better than I kind of expected. I just thought it was a cool thing and I threw it out there. And a lot of
You blew
people
my mind with
seem to
that. You
like
blew
it.
my mind with that. I was like, okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
it's
smart.
not gonna be a one-click thing. Like, you still we can
No.
go back to the creative thing. Like, you still need to know how to use your curves
Hmm.
and how to set your
Hmm.
white balance and just, like, general color grading. I'm not a colorist, right? But I
Right,
think I can
right.
get a pretty like, as long as it looks good to my eye, that's actually all that matters. Because I don't have a boss,
Hmm.
I am the boss, I basically
Right,
decide, and if my client's like, "Well, I don't like the color," well, they're my boss that day. But
right.
for the most part, nobody's ever said that to me. So as long as it looks good to my eye, I'm all about it. And yeah, that was
Cool.
just a cool way. And really, what I should be doing is every time I get one I like, I should be making it a LUT, putting it in a folder, and that way I can use it over and over. And not only that, in the future on this podcast, I can say, "Hey, here's my LUTs." Everybody's selling LUTs,
Right.
so why
True.
not use
Yeah.
AI to make your LUT,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
another like way you can use it to make money.
Yeah. No, those
But yeah,
shots came out official. I was impressed with that. Good work. Great work.
I think that
And
covers that, unless you got another question about it.
so in the photo shoot, was that just all Photoshop? You just went in the Photoshop and the traditional retouching in there?
I actually don't use Photoshop a lot for photo
Me either.
editing and
Me
I
either.
use Lightroom just
Hmm.
for pretty much everything. If I need to go in and like take a hair out that's on somebody's eyeball or something, of course I'm using Photoshop for that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
for the
now
most part, I'm only using Lightroom.
Now Lightroom has all that in there. You know, it's getting to the point now where Photoshop is more for
Yeah.
like adding. I don't know. I would say adding text and doing things like that, but now we have Canva, so I just don't open up Photoshop a whole lot anymore these days.
Dude, dude, there's another topic we need to like put in the queue. Canva.
Uh-huh.
I mean, dude,
Oh yeah,
the amount of
yeah.
Canva
We could talk about that. Mm-hmm.
And they just
We'll
had their big conference in California.
Yep.
And I signed up for the online and I attended it. Like I was in it the whole from beginning to end.
Nice.
And they released,
That's what's
and
up.
then the first 100,000 people to upgrade got like all these different features, which was pretty cool. But yeah, we can get into Canva a whole another day.
They added like auto reframing for different formats and some cool things like that. I saw for sure. So did we cover all these topics then?
Yeah,
the time.
I think you went into music pretty heavy. That was our last topic here. You talked about that at length, so we could probably just round this thing out. You know, with just the general thoughts on AI. I personally love it. I've always been a solo creator. But not really always, because I've been in bands, and then you know how that goes. I've worked on television shows. I've worked on different film sets. That's how me and you met. We basically worked on a film set in the desert together, and that's how we met.
Something like that. Something like that.
But we're not going to talk about it. But because we actually can't talk about it. But
exactly.
That being said, I have always been sort of a solo creator. And to me, it frees up a lot of drama, right? Like, not that I don't want to collaborate. We're obviously collaborating, but I like this a lot better. Like, I like how you've got your own thing going on. I've got my own thing going on. We're both using AI, and then we come together once a week to collaborate. And so, you know, the company of one philosophy that we've mentioned in this podcast is sort of how I'm going forward with this. And there's even like, this is going to be edition 1 of this. You know, we're going to talk about AI a lot because there's ways, the stuff we're talking about, there's ways to automate it. I haven't even started that stuff. I'm still manually doing my AI. I could, every time I upload a video, I could tell a program to look at it and then generate a blog post about it. So we're just kind of getting just through the door, you know?
Yeah, it's changing every day. New stuff's coming out. It's blowing my mind every day. It's freaking me out a little bit. It's encouraging me. It's inspiring me. It's you know, it's a roller coaster ride right now. It's internet 2.0. It's the new internet. We have the industrial age. We have the internet age. Now we got the AI age. And I would say embrace it and check it out because it can free up some time for you in one way or another, whoever you are.
For sure. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Epoch Creative Podcast. If you found value in this information, do like and subscribe. We've got, 40 topics that we're going to be covering in the next year or so. We've kind of got all that planned out, and we're going to have some really good guests too. We just kind of want to do the first couple episodes with just me and Troy to get used to all this. And this is our first day going live, and I think it went pretty well. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for more creative content, especially if you're using creativity to generate revenue for yourself and your family. And that's what it's all about, man.
Cool.
Did I lose you, peace, Troy? Everybody. Right here at the end. Okay, cool. All right, bro. We're gonna end it. We will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
All right, next week. Later.